and welcome back to OT, the podcast. We are here to talk about watches, time, and how to spend it. My name is Andy Green.
My name is Felix Schultz. Andy, how are you this fine afternoon?
Fantastic, Felix. How are you?
I'm pretty good. It's lovely weather we're having.
It is lovely. It's almost the perfect day here in Melbourne.
Yeah. I'm not arguing.
You're not convinced, but you're not arguing with me.
I mean, the perfect day is a very big call. Like,
what is it? 25 degrees outside, 26 degrees outside,
maybe.
Not a cloud in the sky.
Yeah, I could see some clouds. Maybe
see some clouds.
I don't know. But yeah, you're right. It's pretty. It's a lovely.
It's shorts and t-shirt weather, and it's comfortable.
I'm wearing shorts, t-shirt, and Felix's trademark footwear, which we will discuss with our upcoming guest, Andy.
Surely not.
Yeah, with none other than the editor of one of Australia's premier lifestyle digital platforms, Boss Hunting, Nick Kenyon, who we know from other lives as well, and he's a very thoughtful watch collector, I think.
Nicholas Kenyon, yeah. So he was at Time+Tide when you were there, Felix. I think I just missed him.
Yeah. And he's now over, not looking after just watches. He's looking after everything. So from, I don't know, yachts to travel to, I don't know, high fashion. He's your boy Nick.
Yeah, making some serious waves. He has made a massive dent on their website in just sort of 6 months. I think I had a quick look at.
He better not tell the bosses and get it back to the shop and claim it was someone else's fault.
Yeah, he's been working. He's been working hard, which is cool to see. So he's in Melbourne with us. Very passionate about watches, so it's going to be a good chat.
Mm-hmm. But before we do, we talked about it actually after we stopped recording, and I didn't want to let such a great piece of media go unrecognized
for a week.
And you promised, Andy. You said, "I'm going to go watch it right now." Did you do that?
I'm up to date. I'm waiting for the next episode.
Oh, we are talking, of course, about The After Party.
Yeah.
It's an Apple TV series. And the way I think I sold it was it's kind of like, what did I say? Kind of like Knives Out meets
Cluedo or something?
Yeah, something else. It's kind of got that Only Murders in the Building sort of modern whodunit feel that I'm very much here for. Tiffany Haddish is sort of the lead detective, and there is a stellar performance from Ben Schwartz as Jasper. Ben Schwartz, of course, from such excellent movies as Alvin and the Chipmunks, Sonic the Hedgehog.
Come on.
Also from like Parks and Rec, and does he show up in Brooklyn Nine-Nine? Surely he does.
Yeah, surely.
He's
done a lot of stuff.
He's a funny guy, and he does really well. And surprise for me is it's one of those shows where you kind of know everyone. It's like, oh, there's that guy from that thing, or she was in that other show. So like Searchlight, the woman from there is it. But Dave Franco is like a really quite hateable Justin Bieber facsimile. Is my surprise.
Harsh on Bieber, if I'm honest.
I mean, it's a stereotype.
I disagree with that comparison, but you did have me at Tiffany Haddish. As soon as you said Tiffany Haddish, I was in.
And what's his name? Ike Barinholtz is a very different role. He was in like the Mindy Project, and he's in those sort of a lot of those Hollywood sort of drama comedies. It's worth a look. What do you think of it? If you've just consumed it in 24 hours.
I think the first episode takes a little bit of warming up. And then it just gets better and better as you kind of figure out what's going on and what the show actually is. Because I went in quite cold. I wasn't listening to your description too well, if I'm honest.
You just heard Tiffany Haddish and then paid attention.
Yeah. I was hungry. We recorded from 7 till 8. I was just hungry. I just wanted the call to end, and you just had to drop a recommendation offline. But very good. Tiffany Haddish is awesome. She kills it so far.
Hey, do you think it's inappropriate for us to share a theory as to who did it? Is it spoilery?
Yeah, it's spoilery. I don't even think you'd be able to pick it yet. Anyway,
I've got a guess.
Tell me your guess then. I think it's okay.
You can edit it out if
4 episodes in. So you're way off.
Yeah. My guess is that it is the assisting detective.
Huh.
There's a few things I'm doing something in this that I don't normally do. I'm paying attention to the details. And there's a few things where the character or one of the characters will swap something or say something that doesn't match up. Like normally I just sort of let it flow. But I'm being a little amateur sleuth on this one, so I'm putting it on the record that I think there's more to the assistant detective than.
Be cool. 4 episodes in, so you definitely don't have any spoilers.
Yeah, we don't really know anything about them. There's been a few mentions and a few.
I can see though. It would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
We shall see. Another thing, just to sort of continue on the consuming media role, I watched a movie the other day that I haven't seen in a few years called Galaxy Quest. Have you seen that?
Oh yeah, I was looking at that. Funnily enough, I was looking at that yesterday.
Yeah,
as well.
It's basically a Star Trek ripoff. It's an amazing cast: Alan Rickman, Sigourney Weaver, what's his name, Tim Allen, a lot of other really really great actors in it, and it's a really lovingly done like sort of sci-fi parody. Like clearly they all know what they're talking about, and it's coming from a nice place. But it's a movie that was made. It was made in 1999, and I think we've probably talked about this before. But 1999 was an incredible year for movies. So much good stuff came out, and not just like big budget stuff, but sort of really niche indie sort of pieces as well, like The Virgin Suicides, Fight Club,
Iron Giant,
The Mummy,
Mystery Men,
The Matrix, Mystery Men. Like there's
Wild West. These were all my favorite.
Let's not say Wild Wild West. I'm not.
These were my favorite films as a kid. So
Mystery Men was that's like even things like American Pie and Cruel Intentions, like these sort of really really good films. And it's I was wondering if there was a particular thing like as to why 1999 was like such a bumper crop. Like, was there some sort of tax reason that they had to spend all their money before the millennium? Or
Y2K, yeah,
maybe
had to release it or lose it.
But I sort of looked up an article, which we'll link, a New York Times article, and it's sort of other people clearly agree that previously they thought that 1939 was one of the best years in cinema, and then 1979, but they think 99 was important for a few reasons, in that it was sort of like a new generation coming of age. But also like the confluence of new technology making easier to make different stories. Like there was less, you could make a movie cheaper, and that allowed people to take risks on movies that they wouldn't do before, as well as improvements in like technology. So
yeah, I mean, this is a long list. It makes sense.
It's like Blair Witch Project,
Talented Mr. Ripley.
Like there is,
10 Things I Hate About You,
Three Kings.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, Deep Blue Sea.
Terrible. But even stuff like Run Lola Run, there's lots of things that sort of I don't know. I find it really Stuart Little all time. Yeah, so there was a lot going on, and I just think it's a really interesting thing that those things sort of crop up every so often, seemingly at random. So I might work my way through a list of the best films in '99.
Office Space, yeah.
Office Space. My
good
gosh.
Year.
And I think also we have to acknowledge that maybe we're of an age where we're like nostalgia for that.
Well, for this was me going to the video store, the VHS store, to borrow films, and I could borrow all the kids' films, and I would see all these, M15 plus.
I might have been serving you in that. Actually, no, not in '99. Maybe a few years afterwards.
A few years after. So this is peak me as a kid, and about as far back as my
you would have been. How old were you in '99?
I was 8.
You were 8?
Yeah, I was 8.
Shut the front door. I was like 16 or something.
Yeah,
I was a full-grown adult.
Yeah,
already had my first Rolex.
We had a beer by then.
A beer or a beard?
Both. No, you had a beard early.
Yeah, I did. Anyway, what have you been up to, mate? Have you been going back to the past?
Yeah, I actually have been playing Diablo 3, which the 10-year-old version on PlayStation 5. So
how's it go? Have they given it a glow up?
Nah, there's no glow up. I don't know. It's very repetitive. I have funny memories of Diablo. My dad got addicted to playing Diablo 2 on the PC.
It's a classic grinder.
Yeah, he'll be like, oh yeah, I'm working, and then you just hear click,
1 in the morning.
Till like 2 a.m. Like I've never seen my dad like this before. Like he does not game at all. But this game caught him.
I know men of a similar age that got into Civilization hard. That was
Yeah,
the.
but he would lie. He'd be like, "Yeah, I'm just doing some work, and then you just hear like click, 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 fuck, click, 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 and
Are
you just.
you? He's trying to beat the big boss at one in the.
It's very like I don't know. The more I think about
Way
it,
to
I'm
out your
playing.
dad, by the way. Like,
Yeah, the more I play it, right, it's like you get stronger and get more skills, as do your enemies, and that's the whole game. And the maps change a little bit, but it's just hack and slash.
yeah,
There's really no skill at all required other than how you kind of spec your player out. So
yeah. I mean,
I'm addicted to it, so I'm going to finish it,
yeah, sure.
and it's good fun.
Yeah, I've been playing some old games as well, just like phone games. Like I've gone back and downloaded
Snake.
them again. Nah, just a little. They're like a stealthy shooter one with
Oh yeah.
hilarious name of Space Marshals.
Huh.
It's like a
Okay.
western in space. It's great. It's good fun.
There is fun to be had in. I mean, I played I think The Witcher. I can't remember if it was 1 or 2, which is ancient as well. But yeah,
yeah. Oh, it'd be The Witcher 3. Yeah, is that
probably yeah,
the big one? Yeah, it's one of
massive,
one of the
enormous.
greatest games ever made.
Yeah, so it's you know what, it's just fun sometimes to go back, and it's not all about the best graphics.
Nah, I'd say
Yeah.
it isn't. I think it's mechanics and yeah, I'm with you. Anyway,
Otherwise, I have been watching the latest season or half season, I think, of Ozark. I think I'm about to be disappointed. I think there's one episode left in this half of the season.
oh, is it? I think I tapped out season 2.
It's very stressful to watch, but it's worth the commitment, I got to say. Like it is very good. It's very stressful.
He's great.
Jason Bateman.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. I mean, just watching it and you just kind of like look at how he reacts and how he kind of, there are no big deals to that man, to that character. It's hectic though. Like it's such a hectic show.
Yeah. Did you watch Breaking Bad?
I did. Yeah, I guess it's probably like this decade's Breaking Bad.
Yeah, I don't know. Breaking Bad was good, but I think people stand it a bit hard.
Yeah, it was slow.
Well, and it's just I don't know. It's just
I don't
like
know how they got away with it for so long, like with that pace, because it was
Better Call Saul's a far better show, I'd say. I think
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
and it's just I don't know. It's like I take issue with there's a particular sort of person that like goes, oh, Walter White's cool. Like no, he's you know what I mean? Like there's those guys out there that are like think that like Walter White's the best things. It's sliced bread. It's the same though with like Tony Soprano. People that stand with Tony Soprano.
One of the good bad guys.
Yeah, I mean,
like Dexter.
I mean, yeah.
Anyway,
let's stand Tiffany Haddish.
Yeah, we stand Tiffany Haddish. All right, Felix, speaking of cool things, we need to take a break.
And now, Andy, time to have a quick chat about this week's sponsor, Artem Strap.
Let's get right into it. Australia's own Artem makes some of the best sailcloth straps we've seen, period.
Sailcloth straps are great. They offer a casual look and they won't get ruined by water. Too often I find they're cheap, perhaps even downright nasty, or that they come on like super high-end pieces that are brand specific. Artem offers something different. They're supple right out of the box and the finish is excellent and they have a feel on the wrist that I find lovely. I currently have an Artem strap on my Bremont as well as my Nomos Ahoy, and I have not taken them off since I got them. Andy, what makes a great sailcloth strap?
That's a good question, Felix. There is a bit of a secret sauce in Artem straps, but we do know that they have a synthetic upper with an underside that is a mix of cowhide sealed with rubber to provide a smooth and water-resistant seal on the surface that touches your wrist. These high-quality materials and the attention to detail mean that it has a really pleasing satin sheen that conforms well on the wrist and, offers that water resistance.
It's the smooth underside that sells it for me, Andy. Artem currently offer black straps with white, grey, or black stitching in widths from 19 millimeters all the way up to 23. So that's 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23 millimeters, as well as a few lengths. They have some exciting updates in development too. Stay tuned for those.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what Artem do in 2022. But Felix, do not forget the buckles. They offer a few different buckle styles which live up to that same quality we've mentioned of the straps, and that includes a really solid deploying option.
Yeah, speaking of the deployants, bit of a new thing out of the gate for them. Check out the new style sailcloth that is reminiscent of Amiga's canvas strap. Comes with no keepers, which a lot of people will like, and that makes it tailor-made for that deployant buckle.
Love it. To find out more about Artem's wonderful sailcloth straps, head to artemstraps.com. That is ARTEM straps.com.
Love it, Andy. Let's get back to the show. And there we go, Andy. We've got some more Artem goodness in the post, I
Yes,
think. So we'll
excited.
have to. We've got some new straps coming in for
Can't
a
wait.
bit of a look see. So we'll have to share our thoughts on those when they arrive. But that's not now. Now is the time for something completely different. Now is the time for Kenyon.
Let's do it. Let's get Nicholas Kenyon on the phone.
Andy, today we're chatting to the one and only Nick Kenyon, who you may well recognise as the editor of Australian Lifestyle Empire,
Empire.
Boss Hunting.
Global reach.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just Australian; it touches everyone. Nick is so much more than just luxury lifestyle. He's also a former colleague of both of ours. He's a very keen watch enthusiast and a collector of, I've just got to say, weird vintage watches. If it's ugly and niche, Kenyon will love it. What's going on, Nick? How are you?
Thanks for having me, guys. That's a perfect intro. And yes, I think, if it's, under 35 mil and quartz, sign me up.
Yeah, look, we certainly will, Nick. You've got an interesting perspective on watches. You have a background from Time+Tide, which is where Felix and I obviously both spend a lot of time. And now you're at Boss Hunting, which is a bit of a broader lifestyle publication. So I'm really keen to hear your take, and I think people will be as well. Why are watches so hot right now?
It's a good question. I think it's just a factor of time. I think that there's been enough kind of coverage of niche publications. I think that some of the auction prices, specifically Paul Newman, definitely would have gained, gotten a lot of eyeballs on the industry. And yeah, I just think that the kind of, the collectible nature of it, but also the financial aspect, I think, has brought people in swathes recently. And yeah, people are curious, people are interested, and yeah, there might be a few people that say that it's ruining it for the OG collectors, but I think if the industry is growing, then surely that's got to be good for everybody.
I think you're right, Nick, and I think something that certainly I think you've written about and we've talked about is that sort of the trends that we're seeing in watches aren't new to watches. We're seeing it in other categories. Whether they come from sneaker culture, even cars to an extent. How do you sort of find talking about these other sort of lifestyle items coming from a watch point of view? Like, does it translate your sort of love of some weird vintage watches to Dior Birkenstocks, as we were chatting about before?
It's a good question. I've got, I've always been interested in fashion and design and style generally. So that's, definitely been a smooth transition from Time+Tide to Boss Hunting. But yeah, I just think that, I don't know, I think one of the interesting things about writing about watches full time is, you've got to be able to find something interesting to say, or at least an interesting angle on any watch, regardless of how minimal the updates might have been for the new collection or whatever it is. So I think, that kind of puts you in pretty good stead to, uncover the kind of interesting elements of any product. But yeah, especially, be it Birkies or cars or hotels. There's an interesting element to everything, I think. So long as you can find it, you can write about it.
Yeah, that's a good answer, Nick. And what I'm interested to know, sort of, from you now that you've been in the role of Boss Hunting for a good, must have been at least 6 months, probably longer. What common, what overlap do you see between watches and other kind of lifestyle items? The first thing that jumps to mind for me would be, the resale sneaker market versus the resale watch market. But have you sort of seen the same sort of trends coming up across in different spots?
Yeah, definitely. I think, there's a kind of particular economic situation around the world which has kind of seen these sort of, luxury or non-essential items get a lot more attention, or supply chains and things like that mean that's, difficult to get cars. And then that kind of just drives more people towards it. If you have to wait, I don't know, a couple of years to get the the new discovery or something, the price is going to go up as a result of that, and people are going to notice. So yeah, I'd say that there's definitely a lot of common elements between watches and other categories, and I almost see watches, especially compared to specifically sneakers, just in terms of the kind of hype machine that's built around them, but also potentially cars as well. That the watch market, as it kind of stands, is almost a little immature compared to those, and that the things that we've seen in those markets are probably coming to watches, in terms of people building algorithms to buy sneakers as soon as they launch on different sites, those sorts of things. I don't see that the hype machine that's already got a full head of steam in the watch industry is going to be slowing down anytime soon. Lots and lots of commonalities.
Yeah, interesting. So then the next question that I have for you, Nick, Hyperside, what watches appeal to this broader audience, say the boss hunting audience? Because, Time+Tide, very niche watch focused. But boss hunting's obviously a bit broader, a bit more sort of every man. So what watches do you see kind of appealing to that audience? What surprised you?
It's a good question. I think, I think everybody knows Rolex, and that's often an entry point for people as they kind of start to read or research watches, or they kind of start to get interested in things. I'd say generally people are kind of they might have heard of watches, or they might have kind of heard obviously heard of Rolex, but might not quite appreciate the price points. $10,000 or $15,000 for a watch might seem, well, it is a lot for your first watch. I'd say that the kind of the brands on the more affordable end of the scale, Longines or Tag Heuer, for example, Tudor, Nomos. I think those sorts of brands are, speaking to the every person, also kind of offer a good entry point into the wonderful world of watches. Cartier as well, Bulgari. Cartier released their Must. They relaunched the Must collection. I think it was only last year, and I think that's a fantastic thing. Just in terms of the influx of people coming into the watch industry, is that if they're interested in Cartier design, or even Bulgari with the aluminium collection, it's you might spend a few $1,000s, but you definitely don't have to drop 5 figures to get an absolutely sensational watch. And I think that's a clever move by those brands to kind of make an extremely compelling entry point, and then hopefully snag you for life.
Yeah, I think you're right, Nick. And Andy, can you just make a note that it took 8 minutes and 30 seconds for Nick to mention the which has to be a record. I mean, normally it's within the first 3.
You set an alarm.
Yeah, no.
But Nick,
I'm a big fan of Cartier. That's true.
Of course, who isn't? What I was wondering is, so in that sort of watch crowd that we all roll in so often, there's certain things that like are in and out of fashion. Obviously, like just to sort of name some examples, like maybe 5-10 years ago, brands like Bell and Ross and Panerai, and some of the bigger guys like Hublot, they were all pretty. Yeah, I mean Frank's going back a bit further, but those guys were really cool, and like in that sort of, if you go to a watch collectors meetup, you're sort of going to be perhaps a little bit frowned upon if you're wearing a 46 millimeter, diver or something like that. Does that translate to that more mainstream audience? Like, those sort of the people on the, the bleeding edge of the watch consumers, are they setting the trend, or is it a sort of a little weird echo chamber operating in parallel that cares about in-house movements and stuff like that?
It's a good question. I
thought so.
Yeah. I think a couple of things. I think for most people, their kind of, or at least their initial awareness around the watch industry will probably kind of come from the massive hype watches, the 5711s, or Submariners, or Royal Oaks, and then that, I think, sort of dictates a little bit what people are expecting to be wearing size wise and those sorts of things. But I also think that once people, if they, potentially budget's more of a kind of object or something that they're more concerned about. Once they kind of start reading, then they might kind of get, their interest piqued by a Hamilton khaki or a Baltic or a Ming, and I think those watches are generally on the kind of smaller side potentially, and it obviously also comes back to personal taste as well. Are you the type of person that wants to grab everyone's attention in the room with a massive gold G-Shock or something, or do you want to you're collecting watches for yourself, or you're not really interested what other people think about it, in which case maybe you go for something slightly more modest or slightly more heritage inspired, should we say. Yeah,
nice. Well, to follow that up, Nick, from your point of view, expert in the field, what's good at the moment, the last 6 months, for someone who's looking for a nice watch? Are there any sort of new releases you could jump to?
I really liked the new Tag Heuer Aqua Racer collection, 40 millimeters. I think they smashed it out of the park. Yeah. They they obviously kind of gave it a bit of energy last year. And I think they were 41 or 42 millimeters, slightly bigger cases. 43, yeah. Deeper depth rating. But yeah, they've kind of dialed things back a little bit away from the kind of professional diving spec and more towards just a kind of everyday tool watch, I suppose. Steel bracelets, good case sizes. I really love the steel bezels. Reminds me of
solid.
The kind of the OG Tudor Black Bay, or one of the OG Tudor Black Bays from a few years ago. Just a super clean look. And extremely competitively priced. More affordable than the previous versions from last year as well. So I think they're fantastic. As I said, Cartier, I think brilliant with their Musk collection. I think the Bulgari aluminium collection is seriously compelling. The rubber bracelets are obviously super comfortable, especially with those kind of articulating links that they've got in those straps. And then obviously I'm a potentially after Cartier, but I'm a big fan of Seiko and Grand Seiko as well. Seiko every year just smash it out of the park with under maybe, like, they're kind of climbing up a little bit these days, but maybe around $2,000 you can get an absolutely bulletproof dive watch, go anywhere, do anything. I just think that they're fantastic as well. So lots of options, I'd say.
Now, Nick, I want to pick up a point there on Tag Heuer. I'm not entirely sure if you're a active participant or even a member of the OT Discord channel.
I'm not. I don't think so. I think I need to get down to it.
You're missing out on some straight sauce.
Yeah. Link in bio.
Recently, you've been missing out on Andy waxing lyrical, like getting excited, maybe slightly too excited about the Tag Heuer Naomi Osaka limited edition. You don't often, like, you see, in the press materials, it's typically that portrait of Naomi Osaka wearing the watch, but Andy's gone in on the details, and he's sending me messages about the Mother of Pearl. Mother of Pearl's great. Why do we have more Mother of Pearl dials? And then he's talking about the fluoro green highlights and how even the diamonds look good. I don't know what's going on. Maybe Andy's
it's a nice watch.
Missing
it is a nice watch.
It's a very
what do you think? Yeah, what do you think of, like, weird, sort of less conventional releases from big brands, or that sort of, those sort of crazy, collabs with third parties,
with athletes? And
do you rate it?
I definitely rate that watch. I think it looks fantastic, and it's clearly, not only a good-looking watch, but also a comfortable watch if she's happy to play with it on her wrist. There's not many pros on the ATP tour who are wearing watches apart from Mr. Nadal with his 30-gram Richard Mille. But I think, I don't know, I really love the Ash Barty limited edition from last year, or maybe I think it was 2019 actually.
Is that the white one?
Yeah, with Rado. And that also, Andy, if you're in the market for diamond index, mother of pearl dialed, tennis themed wristwatches. That
I
is,
sense a list coming on.
Yeah, I see a list coming up.
that's that was another beautiful watch, and that was full ceramic, super comfortable on the wrist, very very lightweight, and I think only 37 mil, so relatively unisex. I think anybody could probably pull that watch off. But I don't know. I like them. I think that Tag did a fantastic job with the Bamford Aqua Racer as well last year, which I know Andy you had some good time with. I rate them. I think that there's a few of the both. RWC as well. They do quite a few, or have kind of started to do a few. Those more niche limited editions, I suppose. More specific in terms of probably pilots or historically pilots inspired. But I rate them, to be honest. I don't know. I think it's cool.
I agree. I think on the topic of collaborations, Felix, we got a list of questions here. We have a glaring omission, Felix.
I thought about it.
I
thought about it.
I'm embarrassed.
I didn't want to talk about it necessarily, but I
have a feeling
thought
that
it would come up.
I have a feeling that Nick, you might be wearing a watch. You definitely have a watch. A very recent collaboration, and we would love your thoughts because you're probably the third or fourth person in the world at the moment who can give hands-on thoughts that's not us.
Before you answer this question, Nick, I just want to sort of say why I didn't want to toot it too hard. Of course, we're talking about our watch with anOrdain, which hasn't really been sent out through a weird twist of fate and some low-key flexing. Nick managed to get quite an early one. So, and this episode's going to come out before they're sent. So, don't be too.
It's posted it though, so it's fair game.
Yeah, sure.
It's fair game on a grey NATO, no less. And you were rocking it in the gym the other day. So.
Yeah, Kenyon spec.
I don't have one. I'm just salty. You guys have got. I don't have my
Felix
own.
actually doesn't have one yet.
I know, and that I honestly feel bad about. I was not aware that I was going to be getting it before Felix was, but no,
you hassled me so much.
I know. I was legitimately excited. It's an attractive pink dial that I could actually get on the list for. From one person to another with a bit of an affliction for pink dials, I think. But no, it's an absolutely fantastic watch, and I was shocked when I realized that I was one of the first people that actually received it. But no, I don't know. We've all got kind of mental lists of brands we'd like to buy from eventually. And anOrdain was absolutely at the top. And I don't know. I was kind of tossing and turning between a few different models, and then got a little whisper that there might be something in the works, and thought, why pull the trigger on anything else? And with the pink dial, it's fantastic. 39 millimeter case, I think, is slightly bigger than their usual fare. I think they did they did a one-off 39 for your employer's pink dial auction, I believe, Mr. Schultz.
Yeah, it was the new model, that one, I think, a Model 3. I could be wrong.
I think Model 2, yeah.
I think it was a Model 2, same as ours.
Yeah. But no, wears fantastically. The dial, I've never owned an enamel dial before. And it's just such a delight to look at. The kind of the little, it's almost like the lip of a whirlpool or something, that little edge near the hand stack. And just gets me every time. And then combined with the the map of Melbourne on the back of it is fantastic. It's a really, really good watch. It's barely left my wrist since I've had it. And I hope yours arrives soon, Felix. I can't believe that.
I hope everyone's. I think they're being shipped pretty soon. Hopefully, I should check in on that. But I know what you mean about the enamel. It's like a meniscus of liquid. Almost.
It is. It's just so kind of there's a viscous
fluid
thickness to it that.
That's what we want our watches.
Homer Simpson's pink.
Homer Simpson's pink. Exactly.
I wanted to ask you, Nick. So you've obviously got a wonderful Instagram, which you're very active on, and you don't tend to sit on the same watches for too long. There's always something in or out. What have you been drawn to recently? What have you been looking for? eBaying, whatever it is, on a personal level.
On a personal level, I've honestly tried to calm down a little bit because I think I was probably spending a little bit too much time and money thinking and hunting these things down. Yeah, I mean, I've always been a massive fan of vintage Seiko, and that was almost, if anybody ever asks kind of, what's a really good entry point to collecting, vintage Seiko is absolutely it. You can get a beautifully made watch with a really, really interesting design. You're unlikely to see another one like it, at your local get together. And yeah, all for just a couple of $100. So I think they're fantastic, and I've been, I've obviously got a few of them in rotation. But what have I kind of been up to? In fact, the newest watch that I've got that I've not actually I did post one photo of it. And I don't want to blow up my own spot by getting anybody else onto them before I've collected enough of them. But
just change like one of the names of it. Like if it's a Seiko, just call it. Yeah, I really like vintage Seiko. People, it'll fool them. They'll go under the radar.
It's a Chrono Hawk, isn't it, Felix?
It's a Seahawk.
Seahawk.
The Chrono Hawk is actually a thing as well, and you don't.
You can have the Seahawks.
Yeah, okay.
Have them all.
Have the Seahawks. No, I got basically in I think it was kind of the back end of the 1970s, early 80s. Seiko, obviously Seiko released the first Quartz watch, so they were kind of up and at 'em with that technology, both in terms of the thickness of the movements and those sorts of things. So I actually got a new, well, not new, but recently acquired a vintage Seiko Quartz one, very, very thin, and comes in a full polished tungsten carbide case, which is, if anybody's familiar with metal hardnesses and whatnot, it's about as hard as metals get. And Seiko somehow, incredible what they were able to do back in those days. But yeah, mirror polish the case, and because it's so hard, 40 years later, it's still in immaculate condition because it's wouldn't have come into contact with anything that could have scratched it. And the dial has a very thin slice of sardonyx, which is a semi-precious hardstone. I don't know, big fan of when it comes to Rolex, especially vintage Rolex stone dials. I just think that there's just something incredible about it. It's kind of, somebody who doesn't know anything about watches can look at that and really appreciate the kind of, the level of beauty, the level of craftsmanship. Love vintage Piaget as well for the same reason.
Yeah, nice.
And to get a short of spending, 40 or 50K on a stone dial day date, for a modest price. So I managed to get this with a beautiful case and a really, really interesting dial. So I've got a few of them now, and I think there's definitely a few more out there, but it's a little bit of detective work because I don't speak Japanese or read Japanese, and obviously none of the catalogs are in English. So
it's not
on the hunt.
There's not exactly the same level of sort of scholarship as Rolex or Omega or anything either, because you're talking about a much smaller financial investment, I guess.
Absolutely. Though in saying that, I think the brand after Patek, Rolex, I think there's a kind of a bit of interest increasingly in Lange by the Tony at Escapement, those sorts of things. But there is an absolutely incredible community of Seiko collectors in Australia, who are just walking encyclopedias. It's ridiculous. It's
scary, to be honest.
They're pretty good as well. Like they'll email you back if you've got legitimate questions on stuff. Like they're pretty on it.
Absolutely.
I got pulled up in the early days actually of watch writing back at a dinky. I did a story on vintage Seiko.
Flex.
And I didn't know as much as I maybe should have known. And I did, this is back when I did my own photos, and I got a bunch of Seikos, and I got hammered on like this severe, like Seiko forum back when that was
Yeah.
a thing. And it was like, these guys don't know anything. They're all wrong. Like, this is the incorrect redial of the blah, 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 blah. And we're like, yeah, I mean, so I had to do some mega culpering there. But, you learn.
It's true. It's
also,
true. And
it didn't matter. Like, no one cared.
Well,
like,
yeah, I mean,
when it was $100 watch, what did it matter?
Exactly. Well, I think that's that's kind of the interesting thing about it. Like maybe a couple of years ago, I went to a dinner with a couple of these Seiko collectors, and I reckon it possibly would have been one of the only times, maybe ever, where there would have been a couple of $100,000 worth of Seikos on the table, all vintage and yeah, just kind of real nerdy stuff. Far beyond my knowledge and understanding. But yeah, deeply passionate community.
One thing I wonder on a fairly regular basis is, so the guy, Colonel Pogue, who gave his name to that chronograph with the yellow dial, he wore it in space. It was auctioned in like 2011, 2012, something like that. It sold for $5,000.
Wow.
As like, that was like one of the highest prices of a Seiko ever, sort of thing. I wonder what that would sell for now.
Yeah. I mean, you're seeing Grand Seiko in Philips catalogs for the first time just in the last couple of years, I think. Vintage and also, Creedor and Ichi, the Ichi collection. So I don't know. I think that I don't know. I almost see it as a function of, other more well-known brands just being crowded out and people being priced out of those brands basically. And that if you kind of, you were really nerdy about Rolex, or you had the same potential to be really nerdy about Rolex, if you'd been in the hobby, a decade earlier, you want something which is, I don't know, historically interesting and significant, and has a passionate community around it. And I think that the level of interest in old Seikos is hopefully going up. I don't know. There's just there's so many fantastic watches out there with Seiko on the dial. Yeah. What do you reckon it'd sell for,
Felix?
I think at least 50 these days.
Yeah, it'd be silly. It'd be stupid like everything else.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
it's is it?
Yeah.
It's
Who knows?
Yeah. Anyway,
for a legit space watch, imagine what Buzz Aldrin's Speedy would go for. That's
now it'd be incredible.
Surely got to be
can't sell it.
beating.
You'd be locked up in federal clink if you tried to sell it.
True.
I think you get a pass by this point.
No,
they
take it seriously.
He'd probably be able to buy it back off them then, because they do decommission stuff. Okay, so on the topic of auctions, I think we've just passed the 5-year anniversary of the Paul Newman auction, which at the time was the biggest price ever paid at auction for a wristwatch. $17.5 million US, so like low 20s if we're talking Aussie. And it's something that Felix and I sort of reflect back on as, and I think a lot of people do, as a bit of a watershed moment for watch collectors and watches, and the community that we're in, sort of falling into the mainstream, because it was sort of, CNN covering it, news.com was covering it, ABC was covering it. Like it was such a big moment.
Yeah.
And I don't know that watches have ever had a moment like that. But I'm curious to hear from you, like what's changed in these 5 years that we can point back and blame on the Paul Newman auction.
I think a lot of the prices these days you could loosely trace back to that. I completely agree. I think it absolutely was a watershed moment in the industry. And probably the first time that people kind of understood that there were people out there willing to pay such large amounts of money for wristwatches. I'm sure there would have been a similar moment in contemporary art markets or car markets. There would have been kind of one either big auction or big lot that kind of that turned heads. But I just think that, I don't know, if you look at New York Times, for example, I think they covered it fairly extensively back in the day, and now they've got pretty regular watch interviews. With Thierry Stern from Patek. I think they got an exclusive with maybe last year. So yeah, I think that had a massive part to play with the level of interest that there are. Sort of speaking to what we were talking about earlier. Yeah, the level of interest that there is in watches at the moment, and then by proxy, prices that people are willing to pay for pre-owned watches that they can't get at retail, or auction records that are kind of, there seems to be new records broken almost every auction, if not definitely every season. For specific references, and I don't know if that's kind of some sort of wealth stratification, that there's people interested have more money than they did in the past, and they're kind of willing to dig deeper, or there's just more people kind of interested in it, or maybe it's, surely there's the investment factor has a significant part to play in it, especially just look at the speaking of pink dial watches, the OPs, the Oyster Perpetuals from Rolex, just absolutely mental.
That's wild.
I mean, 60 grand for a 41 mil Tiffany dial. Why?
I mean, I always think that's the asking price, but what are they selling for? I don't,
totally.
What's the price realized? One thing I think, you talk about the changes since that Paul Newman. I can't imagine even, back then, that's 5 years isn't so long. Now, I think there's people out there that have a job, and it's managing people's watch portfolios. That's wild.
Well, it's a good point. I actually, another local Aussie podcast, the Fifth Wrist, a friend of ours, Felix, and I'm sure you know him as well, Roman.
He's a friend of everyone's, Roman. Let's be honest.
He's a friend of everyone's. He's
except for Paul.
Exactly. He's the best. He's the best man in Carlton. Let's be honest. But no, he. True, actually. He interviewed.
We probably shouldn't get any more specific based on his.
Cutting Nick off, Felix.
Yeah. If anybody's got pen and paper for some GPS coordinates, no, he interviewed Todd Levine, who was on Talking Watches with Hodinkee, and is a big, he's basically he's an art dealer, exactly, and has kind of acted on behalf of people. And he was kind of talking about the fact that, those guys work on commission bases, and the values aren't quite there yet by his assessment for, watch portfolio managers, in the same way that they might be art portfolio managers. But I think, there's no way that it's not heading in the same direction. And there's no way that, even if they're taking, 10% or 15% clips, surely, if the volume's there, then there's enough for a single salary for sure. But it's incredible.
Yeah, and on that's always one of those sort of, throughout OT, there's been a few sort of bonkers episodes or quotes, that we sort of look back on and go, that's really wild. And one of them for me was a chat with John Reardon, where he sort of said almost quite casually, he's like, I think that the watch auction market will outstrip all of fine arts. Which,
I remember that. Yeah. Insane. I remember on another podcast, he said, John Reardon, if you're listening, love your work. Absolutely incredible stuff. But he mentioned, I can't remember which podcast it was, but he said that the pre-owned Patek market was $1 billion a year. And if he could get a % of that, then, he's making a lot of money. I think if just pre-owned Patek is $1 billion a year, and that's not even with, the top 10 Holy Grail pieces being sold, they only might come up for auction every half decade or decade or so. If you multiply that across Rolex, which, million watches a year at the moment, but maybe, I don't know what the production numbers would have been a couple of decades ago. yeah, it's certainly billions of dollars. And if you look at, I don't know, the fundraising that Chrono24 has done, or
Yep.
I think Chronext as well as
I think even
Everyone.
Dinky, yeah. Everyone's in the game, so yeah, I think it makes sense. What John said.
Yeah, from a revenue perspective, I mean, it has to be, because Patek and Rolex that are selling for 3 or 4 times retail are gonna be bigger. Like, the secondary market is now enormously bigger than the primary.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think about.
It is crazy to think about, and I think that I don't know. I mean, it gives confidence. Gives me confidence that all of us will still have jobs in a decade's time, hopefully. But yeah, I think it's only, from everything that we're kind of seeing, it's only going in one direction. Will it kind of maintain the rage that it's kind of got at the moment? I think it's sure. I can't really see that happening, but yeah, even if it halves, it'll still get bigger and bigger.
It's interesting. I'm in a Facebook group which is primarily US, but it's called Moda, MODA. I don't know if anyone is in it.
Yeah,
and yeah, you're in it, right? And some of the stuff that get auctioned is crazy. And there's a few different like offshoots of the group. But the luxury watches group actually banned the turquoise blue OP sales because the admins, and they've monetized it quite interestingly, but the admins just banned any sales because the price was going crazy and they just weren't comfortable having them being sold in the group. Because at one point people were asking $70,000 or $60,000, and then I think they did an announcement a week or two ago and said, okay, now that the price is stabilized, we'll let you list one for sale, but it has to be around $35,000, which is pretty close to 50 Aussie. And it's just really interesting to kind of see even people capitalizing on that, like Facebook, pretty organic marketplace, because I think everyone's in half a dozen watch groups, and it's not monetized, but these guys have monetized it because they've worked out that if they build a really diehard audience of people that are buying and selling and transacting, they can just jump in and get a clip. So, but I found it interesting that they're just like, nah, we're not even going to facilitate a sale during this time because it's too volatile. And then that's when you kind of compare it to other things where there's bans on trading stuff. So
yeah, well, I think
which is weird at the moment.
Well, no, it is so weird. I don't know if you guys have spotted it on Instagram yet, but there's a relatively new account started by a guy in Sydney that actually wrote an article about with boss hunting, and it's essentially an aggregator for Australian watch sales, kind of private and also dealers, through the dealer websites themselves, but also various Facebook groups, and just got some numbers through for January today, and month on month it's up 11% to 17.5 million. Just dealers that he's kind of in touch with, and Facebook groups
tracking.
And then you look at Moda, and you just think, I don't know, it must be tens of millions of dollars transacted every single week. Never mind the big auction houses themselves. I think it's just jaw dropping, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think in that context, it makes perfect sense that Richemont are buying Watchfinder, LVMH is investing in whatever they're investing in, all that. Everyone's getting in. It's amazing the pivot that's it's used to be sort of shunned, or where you try and offload your poor selling watches, and now it's firmly into the tent. One thing you were saying a sec ago, Nick, is that you feel pretty comfortable having a job in 10 years' time based on the way that the watches are going. And I'd really be interested in getting your take on this, because I know we've spoken about it in the past. So specialist watch media, like those big sort of watch fill sites that were mainly born 10, 15 years ago now by from passion and very little money, are increasingly becoming sort of slick, increasingly lifestyle sites. Like Hodinkey's got watch spotting and who's wearing what. Like they're covering what Rihanna wore during her pregnancy announcement, all that sort of stuff. Do you think the era of that enthusiast platform is dead? Like that sort of one guy with a love of watches building a plucky media empire that rhymes with Schmominky. Could you do it again, or is it too much money in the game?
I think to build something like half a dozen people have built over the last decade and a half. I feel like that ship, that kind of first mover opportunity, that ship has sort of sailed to a degree. But then you also look at, you guys you do a bit of writing for A Collected Man. I mentioned him earlier, Tony at Rescapement. There's a few other places. Even to a degree, Fifth Wrist. I think that there's still going to be that, as many people come in to the watch industry, say 20% of them are diehard nerds that aren't interested in Richard Mille or Rolex, or they might be, but they're only interested in the 666 underline whatever dial
Bart
Mark
Simpson
II.
something. Yeah.
Exactly. There's always
Homer Simpson dial.
Homer Simpson dial.
Oh, that's our next one. We're gonna do the Bart Simpson next.
Just the full family. But yeah, I think that those whatever the percentage of the the community is that level of detail orientated. I think that will kind of grow commensurate to the overall community or market or whatever you want to describe it as. So I think that there will still be an appetite for it. And I also think, I don't know, even if you look at like Dimepiece, for example, nobody was speaking to women really specifically in the watch world. And she's got 20,000 followers
not
in
in a
the last.
relatable way. Yeah.
Well, yeah, potentially not in not in a new media way, not in an Instagram way, at least that I'm aware of. So I don't know. I think that there's lots of those kind of little niche audiences that will continue to grow and will hopefully have if you're a part of a community of, I don't know, 20,000 women who are interested in watches, surely somebody's going to launch a site off the back of that, or a YouTube channel. Jenny L, you guys have had her on.
Legend.
Yeah, legend. So I think that I don't think that it's dead, but I think that it's 2.0. What are your guys' thoughts? You're almost, this is almost a bit of an example of it, right?
Yeah, I'm a little bit saddened that you mentioned 4 or 5 people that weren't us. Like that was a.
I mean, obviously, it's implied. It's implied.
Yeah,
I wasn't
it was
asking that much.
a real. I was dangling it out there for some praise. Like what did you say, Felix? You're the future of authentic watch media.
Maybe you're the past. Maybe Nick Kenyon's the future, Felix. The old.
No,
yeah,
it's exactly
true.
To take you around the back of Watches and Wonders.
Yeah, no, but it's true. Like you guys have a fantastic podcast that's relatable, really interesting. You kind of deep dive into specific topics when they kind of catch your eye, but still kind of cover the mainstream stuff. Even John Reardon has a podcast again. Just really kind of talks about Patek, but still clearly worth his time. So yeah, I think I don't know. Yeah, again, what do you guys think?
I think all that makes sense, and I don't disagree with anything you said.
Good answer, Felix.
Can I get you to sign in duplicate here?
Yeah, copy pasta. I think there's like a lot of people that have been kind of into watches for long enough now, and the pandemic probably dragged it out, and they're just looking for more excitement or for something different, or at the very least for the information to be delivered in a different way. That's why, and I've talked about it before, but Watches of Espionage is really getting cut through.
Yep.
Because of just the delivery. There's a bit of mystery there. Felix and I both, love the article he wrote for Hodinkee. So that sort of stuff is like new and fresh, and everyone's sitting around for a year or two during the pandemic. Nothing crazy. People are starting to realize that watches aren't actually fast paced and nothing really happens very quickly, and you don't get crazy new releases like you do in cars and in fashion. And after you've gone through 2 Rolex release cycles, you kind of
what's happening.
It's sort of going to be one of 5 things, and you're always disappointed, and then excited at the same time. So I think people are sort of looking for different and more engaging kind of content delivery, and that's why Dime Piece, I think, really cut through probably a year or 2 ago now. People are into podcasts because it's a bit more immersive. So if you're really interested in Patek, or you really like John Reardon, you're probably going to listen to his podcast. The female voice is definitely getting stronger as well.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting time.
I've actually had some time to reflect on my previous answer. So I find it really hard to, I'm finding myself increasingly disconnected with those major sort of sites. And I'm not sure. I find it really hard to work out if it's something in me, and the fact that I'm just, it doesn't serve me anything new or anything that I don't already know, not to sound like, an idiot. But I want things that are like you said, like new perspectives, new approaches, or new sort of voices, because honestly, there's 2 or 3 places that if I want to know how much it costs, what the size is, and get some nice photos, there's 2 or 3 sites that will have that. So if it's beyond that, I'm looking for that someone with a really distinct voice and opinion on the area.
Yeah, and I think that's
like OT.
Like OT, exactly.
OT.
And also, I think, to the point about Dime Piece, she's obviously, Bryn's obviously got a website, but I think, the majority of what she does, at least from the outside, seems to be on Instagram. And you kind of look at, I don't know, for example, Horology Ancienne, I think, probably mispronounced.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's absolutely exploded. I think I came across them when they were a couple hundred followers deep, and now they're 20, 25,000. What do they offer? They offer an exceptionally wealthy perspective. They're almost so much skin in the game that they're almost immune from pleasing brands in a way. They're getting bespoke Pateks made for weddings and those sorts of things. And it's just it's a refreshing perspective, because it's unlike anything else. No journalist is spending millions of dollars on watches a year, or not any that I'm friends with. But yeah, I don't know, Andy. How you going?
You don't know Andy's collection.
Yeah, there's a few I could think of that would have some pretty solid collections. But I see what you're saying.
The level
is interesting.
Exactly, the level is slightly different, and journalists might be buying watches, to curry favor with brands or whatever it might be. Whereas these guys, their independence, I think, is their strongest point. And yeah, they just offer a really interesting perspective on high end watches, more affordable watches. I think that the kind of OG era of forums and blogs and websites and stuff is kind of passing a little, and it's kind of moving into it's fracturing.
Yeah. Well, join the OT Discord, because we're bringing the forum back. We're bringing it back. All right, Watches and Wonders is around the corner. A couple of weeks away, 4 weeks away, 5 weeks away, whatever it is. 8 weeks away. What are you excited for this year? And will you be there?
That is a very good question. I would love to be there. I think we need to iron out a couple of bits and pieces. But yeah, if I could be there, that'd be fantastic. In fact, it would actually be my first proper trade show, proper watch fair. I think I joined Time+Tide immediately after the final Basel World, which was
like you got the job, and the next week it's like, we're quitting Basel.
yeah, it was
You
really
were all
really good.
I want to go to Basel World. Well, you missed that
Well,
boat.
it's cancelled. So yeah, tough luck. So no,
It was your
yeah.
fault.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's that's one data point. We just need another to make it a trend. But no, in fact I went to Dubai Watch Week a couple of years ago, which is fantastic. But no, I would love to be able to go. What am I excited for? It's a good question. I just I've not been around for as long as either of you two, but I just still get excited by new watches, just seeing where brands are kind of positioning themselves, what they're kind of thinking about, different kind of techniques that they're kind of experimenting with, or I don't know, for such a kind of effectively useless object in a way. There's still, proper technical innovation going on. So I kind of find that stuff interesting. But yeah, I mean, if there's anything that's quartz and 35 mil, I'll obviously be most excited about that.
Legit. Hey, Andy, I want to ask the same question to you. What are you most excited about going to watch? If
Yeah, same answer as Nick on this one.
Small vintage quartz watches.
Well, it's been my last fair was, I think, the last Basel World. I can't remember. Maybe not 2018, but it's been. I went to a couple with you, Felix. Yeah. We had a great time.
Yeah,
and it sort of is these watch fairs are really for us Aussies. Once or twice a year where we got to catch up with everyone else in the community in person. It made it really special because then you sort of left and you kind of kept in touch with everyone on the internet and followed each other's work. And I just think without that connection, it's not as much fun. And it is more efficient in terms of seeing watches and just getting to leave the country and hear from the brands themselves and have them actually, present everything to you. It's harder work when you kind of have to go through press releases and sign an NDA every other, couple of days to look at some pictures. And it's just completely different. Zooms, are great, but also not great. I just want to get back out there in the field, Felix.
The thing that I sort of immediately think of when I sort of think of like the trade fairs, it's that, like at SIHH, we get the bus in the morning into the PAL Expo or whatever it was, and there'd be Kirk Klaus. You know what I mean? Like he was staying in the hotel down the road, and that sort of stuff. I don't think you can replicate. Certainly not in Australia.
Yeah. Totally. I mean, speaking to Dubai Watch Week again, my kind of first interactions with the industry at large in person. And I just, so every day, just, every hour or so, just have a fanboy moment of, somebody's entered the room or, I was, potentially for people who know me, would be shocked to hear that I was running late to a lecture, and I was standing in the wings of the presentation, kind of waiting for a pause so that I could grab a seat. And Mr. Dufour of Rolex CEO. Credence was standing behind me. He was kind of watching as well, with a few of his colleagues. And I was just
did he whisper, "By Tiffany Blue"?
No, I'm not sure if he was aware of my presence. Despite standing a couple of feet away from him, he's an important man. But yeah, exactly the same thing. Seeing, listening to Jean-Claude Beaver speak in person, and having a drink with him afterwards, just kind of hearing his stories, those sorts of things. It's it's incredibly special, and I think especially for people based a little bit away from everything, be it, I mean, even Singapore has more going on. Asia kind of more generally has more going on. So yeah, I think for us it's important and also super super special.
Yeah, sure. Hey, Nick, we've got to wrap up. But as I'm sure you're a regular listener to the Old OT podcast, you will be expecting the questions coming up, which is a recommendation of something you've been consuming or enjoying that does not ideally relate to watches. Media, literature, food.
That's a good question. I would say I'm a couple of years late to the party, but I spent a week in isolation at the beginning of January after copping a dose of the old Sydney sneeze, and started reading *Sapiens*. Which appreciate a little bit late to the party there, but yeah, absolutely fascinating book. Super interesting, and yeah, absolutely loved it. Yeah. What about you two?
Felix, what have I just started? I've just started an audiobook. Patrick Radden Keefe. I shared this to my Instagram story just the other day. Got a lot of interesting responses. It's called Empire of Pain, and it's about the secret history of the Sackler dynasty. So I've previously plugged Dope Sick on Apple TV with Michael Keaton. This is sort of a book that dives far more deeper into it. It's probably a little bit less glamorized and a little bit more in the history. And the guy who did it, Patrick Radden Keefe, he is the guy who did the podcast, one of my very first recommendations, which was called Winds of Change. And that was the show about the conspiracy into Scorpion Wind of Change song, that it was actually developed by the CIA to kind of help push along the fall of
Soviet Union.
Yeah, the Soviet Union, and sort of push positive messaging and hope into the East. So he's a really interesting and kind of highly regarded journalist, and I think this might be his third or fourth book, but it's absolutely fascinating. It's really hard to listen to because it is about the Sackler family, and they own Purdue Pharma, which was the company that developed oxycodone.
Yeah.
So opioids, and is sort of basically responsible for the epidemic in the United States. So it's a little bit hard on that front, but it's also really interesting because the family behind it, the guy behind Sackler, the Sackler family, he actually essentially invented pharmaceutical advertising. So
yeah, wild. America's so wild.
Equally horrible. Yeah. And how he did it and so it's really interesting. It goes back to like the 1920s at this sort of couple of generations back in the family. So that's my recommendation.
I've got one. It's a preemptive recommendation.
It's TikTok.
It's not. Well, I have been seeing increasing amounts of content on TikTok about it. No, Andy Weir, who wrote The Martian, he's got a new book out called Project Hail Mary. So it's that same sort of hard science space, page-turning narrative fiction. So I'm gonna load that up on the old Kindle and read it at some point.
Check it out. Yeah,
love it.
That's good.
Sure. Yeah. I thought
love it.
Well, Nick, where can we find out about your watch collection or about the latest hype drops?
You can check out most of what I do day to day at bosshunting.com or on Instagram, bhofficial. And then my own Instagram is just Nick.Kenyon, Kenyon. One vowel away from being a half decent runner, unfortunately.
Bosshunting.com.au.
Wow. Well, just in case you didn't get that, or the editor of Boss Hunting maybe didn't quite get it right, we will link it up in the show notes.
We'll link it all up. Thank you so much, Nick. Well, Felix, it was great to catch up with Nick. Haven't seen him in quite some time. Make sure you check out his socials and check out bosshunting.com.au to see all of his fantastic work. Join Nick, newcomer to our Discord. We'll link that up in the bio. If you want to email us, otthepodcast@gmail.com. Felix, what's our Instagram handle?
ot.podcast.
Yes, it is. And if you like OT, make sure you leave a review. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you tell your friends, your neighbours.
I think, you know what, we're on Spotify. And I think, Joe Rogan, there's clearly some controversy there. Maybe we could take that spot.
Yeah. Spotify, if you're listening, we'll take just 1/10.
Yeah, honestly, we'll also be cheaper. We're not going to charge us. Yeah, I mean,
less controversial unless it's a hot take. But even then.
I mean, look, I think we're definitely both pro-vaccine.
Everyone has a price.
Yeah.
All right, Felix.
See you later.
Bye.